name is Kathleen Kuznicki, and I am the chair of the Legislative and Economic Development Committee for the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber. And today, for our Workforce Development video project, I am interviewing two fabulous ladies from NFP, an organization that helps employers give benefits to their employees. So welcome, ladies. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much, Kathleen, for having us. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. Susan, how are you doing?
Wonderful. Happy to be here. And again, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so let me just say, so Susan McKee is the managing director of the Wexford branch of NFP, and Alexis Ruff is the corporate benefits advisor for the Wexford branch there of NFP. So what does NFP stand for? What do you guys do specifically? Can you let me know?
Absolutely. I'd love to take this question. This is one of my favorite questions. I like to say that NFP stands for nice, friendly people. But all jokes aside, it used to stand for National Financial Partners. And since time has evolved, it has just changed into NFP, but I like to prefer and say nice, friendly people.
Okay. And what do you guys do, just as a general?
Yeah, I don't know. Happy to take that one as well. NFP is an international brokerage and consulting firm offering expertise in employee benefits, retirement, wealth management, and property and casualty insurance. Our Western PA practice specializes primarily in employee benefits, but we also offer assistance to employees who are considering retirement or maybe aging into Medicare.
Oh, wow. So you guys got your fingers on a lot of pies. That's fabulous. Okay, so again, we're talking about workforce development and we're talking about retaining employees. So what programs or changes are you helping your clients implement to retain their current employees and to attract new ones?
I'll take that one. There's no real cookie cutter answer to employee retention and recruitment. Every employer is different, right? But there are some areas that we always recommend employers look into to help build a solid platform or foundation for their retention and recruitment efforts. NFP uses a strategy called our Total Rewards Halo. It puts the employee's experience at the center. Let me share it with you if you don't mind. I think this will help frame it out. Can you see that? Hold on 1 second. There you go.
Here we go.
So the key aspects of the framework are compensation, benefits, well-being and engagement, leadership and effective support, community impact, work environment and resources, learning and development, and diversity and inclusion, equity and belonging. So that sounds like a lot, right? But these are all things that an employer should be looking at and considering when they're developing a total reward strategy. A huge part of this only takes up a little piece of the graphic, but it's employee communication. And that really ties it all together and connects all the pieces. And then it's the organization, any individual organization, it's their vision and their priorities that are going to decide what comes to mind first. What's the priority for our company? So I think this does a great job, and I'm happy to provide this to anybody that would like to see it. Take it down for just a second now. There we go. Back to good. So I would just say the best place to start, honestly, is to review the compensation structure. Okay. Be sure that you're paying competitively, right?
Yeah.
Compensation trends can vary widely depending on what industry you're in and what geography you're in. So we also now have to deal with this new topic, right, of pay transparency.
Yeah.
It's not only getting more popular, it's becoming the law in many jurisdictions.
Yes, it is.
So if anybody's not familiar with pay transparency, that's the practice of openly communicating information about compensation with employees and candidates for hire. It can look a little different at each company. Some companies share all the salary data publicly. Some will simply disclose how their salaries are determined. Some might just share salary ranges. And that way team members could understand their earning potential within any given role.
Yeah.
But as pay transparency evolves, it's going to be more important than ever that employers have compensation structures that are competitive, they're fair, and they're non-discriminatory. So that would be a great place to start.
And I'm guessing even though the law may not require it in a certain state, you're not going to be competitive unless you actually share that information even even in those states, because people are going to say, well, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to go over here because they shared it.
Exactly. I think the pay transparency can work in your favor
Yeah.
for recruitment and retention as well.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive topic right now. And
Mhm.
so employers are not, I mean, that's not the way we did business for a long time,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
because that was like,
employers-
no, hush, hush, you don't talk about what you earn.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that was taboo to talk about how much you were paid, right? For many, many years. So like I said, it's a great place to start. It's a great conversation to have. We have expertise within the practice that
Mhm.
specializes simply on compensation studies and making sure people know, within any given salary band or job class, that they're paying competitively.
Okay. And Alexis, you want to talk about, I know a little bit about demographics for companies. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of piggybacking off of Susan here, another great recommendation that we would always make is for your employers to do a demographic review of the employees. Pull that census, get a better understanding of what benefits might be most meaningful to your employees.
Mhm.
A great example of this is our employers are often surprised when young employees don't take advantage of their traditional 401k match. They're not contributing. But what employers aren't considering is that the same demographic of employees might be trying really hard to pay down their student loans and
Yep.
simply, they just can't afford to contribute to their 401k right now. Benefit offerings that allow the employers to redirect those 401k contributions to where the employee needs it can be really meaningful to the employee. Similarly, employees are increasingly interested in benefits surrounding care, whether that's the coordination of care or helping to fund backup care. Care benefits can to extend, from assistance with elder care, child care, and crazy enough, even pet care.
Yeah.
There's so many non-traditional benefits that can be offered on a voluntary basis these days, and it doesn't cost an employer anything, but the employee can save considerably because they're offered on a group chassis. My favorite example of this is identity protection.
Okay.
If you went out and you bought it on your own, it could cost you anywhere between $19.99 to $29.99 a month. And that same plan offered on a group chassis could cost your employee less than $10 a month, which is so crazy what the discount looks like. And, going back to that whole demographic idea, you really can, get down to the nitty gritty and customize those benefits so that they are appealing to, those generations that are in your workforce that can lay a great foundation for your recruitment and retention program. We would love to help employers through that process and provide any suggestions that might be really meaningful to their team.
Yeah, so if an employer comes to consult with you on this, like how long is this meeting generally, just so they know, like when they go through it, obviously might depend on the size of the company, I guess, but how does that look to an employer when they come to you to say, hey, how can you help me with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Kathleen. I would say that first initial meeting is about an hour or so. What are your goals? What are your objectives? And then we truly do a deep dive of that census report and look to see, do you have baby boomers? Do you have Gen Zs, Gen X? Susan's example that she gives all the time is when our benefits came out last year, she was all excited for long-term care. And one of our younger colleagues, she was like, woohoo, we've got pet insurance. So what's meaningful to each individual is most certainly different. So getting a deeper dive into what that census looks like I said, can be super meaningful. And that process doesn't take very long. I would say turnaround time is typically from a few days up to a week.
Okay, well, good to know. Now, besides a competitive wage and the benefits you described, what are some other things employers are now asking from their employees are asking from their employers?
So getting back to my total rewards halo, I'd say first work environment and resources comes to mind. Post-COVID, I'd say the biggest ask has been a varied work environment, right? Everybody got used to the value of working at home. They saw that they could do it successfully. It added a lot to their work-life balance. And many employers are looking for that when they're looking that to continue when they're looking at new positions. A lot of employers are accommodating this, at least in part, One of the recent statistics that Indeed put out was that recruitment ads that offer a fully remote or a hybrid work environment get 45% more engagement than
Oh.
those that ask for full-time on-site employees. So if you're recruiting and you have that flexibility, put it very prominently in your recruitment ad.
Okay.
A lot of employers, though, don't have that luxury, right, of saying you can work from home. If you're building something physically, you can't say you could do this from home. Those jobs, they can still have a varied work schedule, though. Employees are asking these employers to consider flexible or varied shifts. Maybe an example of this is employers who are offering, instead of a 5-day work week at 8 hours a day, maybe they're offering 4 10s with Friday off. That looks great, right? And sometimes they're offering comp time or financial incentives for employees who take that weekend shift, or they take the undesirable shift that no one else wants. They give them a little incentive to do that. I'd also say that employee benefits, like Alexis was alluding to, has changed so much since COVID. Well-being and engagement, that was another slice on our halo, on our pie, right? It's become a really important element. We're seeing huge increases in the request for access to more mental health benefits. Our US trend report showed that 58% of employees are interested in just mental fitness programs like stress management, meditation, resiliency training. I don't know about you, Kathleen, but those things were unheard of when I was starting my career, right?
Yeah.
Very different world we're living in. And I would say that traditional EAP programs are great, but they might not be enough anymore. Employees want tools that are going to support mental well-being on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And then they also want better access to mental health providers, because it's tough to get to a mental health provider now.
Yeah.
So most EAPs, though, and most of our ancillary carriers have responded to this ask, and they've really ramped up what they offer. So a lot of good options out there now. And then I guess I would say the last area is still in that kind of learning and development or well-being and education slice of the halo. And that would be to say the requests are coming fast and furious on financial wellness.
Yeah.
You hear discussions all the time about why don't we teach kids about taxes or balancing checkbooks, right?
Yeah, I heard that. It's like parallelogram season. That was so useful in high school instead of taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, we need the skills. That's the fact. And most of us didn't get taught that in high school, right?
No.
So, and frankly, it's not just for young people either. Like, I don't mean to put this on the
no.
generation. I would say it goes across the board. In fact, the trend report showed that half of employees have less than $1,000 in their savings to cover the cost of an unexpected expense.
Yeah.
And with deductibles rising on health plans, that can really, like, having a medical condition, an incident can be really disabling in terms of your finances. So learning how to budget, how to save and invest, it seems to be skills that our workforce is looking for. And there are a ton of great financial wellness programs out there. It's an inexpensive way to help lower employee stress, provides them a benefit that's going to be meaningful to them in both their work life and in their personal life. So I hope that was a good couple of examples I had thought of that,
well, you really come into like a culture of caring for your employees, right? You want to help them. And I like how you put it as a mental fitness, right? It isn't that you're having issues, but everybody, we understand stress, and we really all just need help with their mental, you said mental fitness, keep
I will tell
people
you,
happy. And financial wellness is a part of that too. That's
stress,
stress to understand it. Because if you don't understand it, you're going to be stressed about it. And then people are embarrassed to say they don't understand it. And then it just snowballs. So I think it's great that you're providing access to these benefits, or a way for employers to engage their employees with these type of benefits.
Yeah, and if you're just putting it out there to them, they're not embarrassed. They're not having to come to you and say, "Oh, can I have an advance on my paycheck because I didn't budget right and I don't have this." You're trying to solve the problem almost before it happens.
Yes, they're just trying to you're preventing the fire rather than putting a fire out. It's much easier to prevent and more cost effective in the long run.
And honestly, for the employer, just strengthens engagement, presenteeism. You know, when your employees are at work, if they're worried about the fact that they can't meet their bills at the end of the month, or that they have a gigantic bill now from, you know, some provider that they didn't budget for, it can take their focus away from their day-to-day work, right? And so, as we said, keeping that at bay and trying to help them stay well rather than treating it after the fact is really a great focus for any employer to have.
Yeah. All right. Now, Alexis, since the chamber, you know, are comprised of mostly smaller businesses, what are small businesses specifically facing regarding their workforce concerns?
Oh my gosh, we also work with a ton of small businesses, and I see the same thing kind of over and over again. Small businesses are often feeling stuck because they don't have a ton of extra resources to provide, you know, the top-notch compensation, or maybe that extremely rich, you know, employee benefit package to their employees. But this is where creativity and culture can really, really come into play. I saw a survey recently from Indeed that showed that 58% of employees claim a healthy work-life balance is more important than financial compensation. I think that statement is just so bold. And this is definitely an area where a small business could make themselves look extremely attractive, you know, even if they're not paying the highest wage, you know, kind of going off of what Susan said earlier, whether that's the flexible work environment or offering, you know, some of those voluntary coverages. Another really big area that I see with small employers is communication. With your benefit package, you can have the richest package out there, but if you're not communicating it well, your employees are not going to understand. They're not going to perceive the package as valuable. So communicating that to your employees is so, so, so important. You know, how to utilize the plan. What does it look like? Who to call when you have questions? And on the same side, if you flip that coin, how do you communicate with your employees? You know, look at that demographic. It might be most meaningful to some if they get a text message, if they get an email, or maybe you're sending some kind of landing page or some kind of website display, or maybe they want a paper physical copy that they can hold and see and take home to, you know, their wife or their husband or whomever's at home to sit down and read together later. That is also extremely meaningful to get the message across of what an employer is really offering in their
and I
benefits.
think you need people like to engage with it. Like some people, you give them this whole big book, here's your benefits. No one's going to sit there and read that. I mean, you're starting a new job, you're worried about this. Probably you may have moved into a new home. You're readjusting your kids' school schedule, and then you're supposed to read this whole big book on your benefits. I bet people don't do that. There's probably better ways to engage, to inform people that over the course of time, to let them know. And then, like then you have to be real specific on it. You just can't assume people are like, well, here it is, and you know about it.
Right, right. I have a bunch of engineering firms, and I know that they are going to love a landing page. You know, I'll go on site, I'll go over the landing page with them. They love text messages. They're okay with doing an automated enrollment. However, with that being said, I also have a ton of manufacturers that say to me, Alexis, I don't have a smartphone. You know, if you send me to an online enrollment site, I don't know how to do it. How am I supposed to get on? In cases like that, I come on site. We have good old-fashioned pen and paper that we will go through page by page. I will sit there with the employees, answer any questions they have, and, you know, physically collect those forms instead of dispersing on a different platform. So it's
so you have flexibility in how you can help people is what you're telling us.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We always say we have 7 different modes of communication, and we're happy to accommodate whatever is easiest and most meaningful to the group.
Okay, cool.
The last thing that I would say is creativity surrounding your total rewards offering is really important and can really set an employer apart regardless of the size of the organization. Maybe an employer can't afford to offer a full group medical plan yet, but maybe they can afford to offer a little stipend that employees then can purchase an individual medical plan. They have what's now called the individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement. That's a mouthful to say. So
Yeah.
we like to call it an ICRA, but that's a great way to start an employer-sponsored health plan. The employer can give the employee a stipend to then go on to the individual exchange to purchase coverage. Or maybe an employer can't afford to offer paid dental and visual programs, but they can offer it on a voluntary basis that will then still save the employees a ton of money versus going out and buying dental and vision on their own. Or maybe it's just something as simple as organizing a volunteer day for their employees that would just be a free way to provide benefits and while also doing really good within the community.
Okay, so for the medical benefits and stuff, what size employers is that work for? What that you're talking about? Because you said small people can't do it. So what I guess would be more of a minimum? Because like I said, we do have lots of small businesses. So what is the typical ranges for things like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Affordable Care Act goes all the way up to 50 full-time employees. And that's where I see typically that, they're kind of pushed up against the wall. It is really expensive. The plans are very cookie cutter. We can't go in and customize.
Yeah.
But there are a ton of new offerings out there like this ICRA that you can kind of get creative. Instead of your employee only having, Highmark or UPMC, they could go to Highmark, UPMC, Aetna, Cigna, whichever carrier they provide, and they can pick whichever coverage suits the best for them and their family on the individual exchange. So I find it fun, although it's really hard, with the small groups. There's some really cool creative options that we can dive into to save money and also offer something unique.
Okay, cool. Wow.
I'll just add to that ICRA, it does seem to work well for a small employer kind of entering the employee benefits market.
Okay.
But I would also say we have very large employers who, if they are rated under their own experience, so they've had a couple of very ill employees who've really driven up the claims, and now their rates are so high it's becoming unaffordable and they don't know what to do. Some of them have gone to the ICRA market as well. So because it is age banded rates on the individual market, it doesn't take into account your experience. So if you had a bad year where things were not looking good from your renewal for a large employer, and ICRA's a way to kind of get out of that market for a little bit, still give your employees great, options for care and coverage, but insulate yourself a little bit against that huge renewal increase.
Okay. Very great.
That's a great point, Susan. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks.
There's so many ways that small businesses can make themselves, look more attractive to recruit and retain. And sometimes all it takes is just a little creativity and that willingness to dive deeper.
Yeah, and you're right. It has to be the willingness. I think employers have to realize it's a different world from what it was 20 years ago, and you can't operate the same way. And we need people like you to show them the way. Show them the guide. So how can they reach out to you? You're a good commercial,
Kathleen.
What?
You're a good commercial. Thank you.
There you go. Well, how can our chamber members and other people reach out to you for them to show you that guidance, for them to show you the guidance and everything?
Absolutely. So our office is in Wexford, right at the intersection of where 79 meets 910.
Okay.
You can reach us at, you can learn more about NFP at nfp.com, easy enough.
Yeah.
Kathleen, can we add our emails and our contact information onto this recording somehow, or do you want me to?
Just say what it is.
Okay. So you can reach me at susan.mckee@nfp.com. And my phone number is 724-940-9407. Alexis, I'll let you do yours.
And you can reach me at Alexis, ALEXIS.Ruff, RUFF, as in Frank, at NFP.com. And you can reach me at 412-862-5183.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for this really interesting discussion to learn about the benefits. And I also like to thank the Pittsburgh North Regional Chamber for giving us this opportunity to educate our membership. So goodbye, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Kathleen.
Bye-bye.